So I got these buttons at a thrift store. They're actually handmade. It says handmade by Annabelle on the back. I'm really excited to use these. The yarn that I'm using is this really soft, I think it's Line Brand, charcoal gray color. And I got this color because I thought it would match the buttons well. Okay, so this is the design of our cardigan. So we're gonna have 4 panels, which we have 2 in the back that are gonna be sewn together, and then 2 in the front, which is this is where our buttons will be. And then we are gonna have 2 tubes, which will be our sleeves. For the tubes, I'm gonna do 100 rows, and that's gonna be 48 stitches because that's how big my Sentro machine is. And then the panels are each going to be 120 rows, and when you're working in panels you lose 3 stitches, so that's going to be across 45 stitches. So for the Sentro machine, I'm going to start with my tubes, and you're going to want to make sure that it's on the T setting. So that's panel, and then this is tube. And then over here is our row counter. So if you just press that, it should reset back to 0. For the tube setting, it will automatically count for you. For the panel, it won't. So you'll just have to count it as you go. And I always start with some scrap yarn before adding the yarn that I'm actually going to use. We're gonna start with number 1, which is labeled number 1, but it's also left of the white. So you're going to start with the tail, not the working side, but the tail kind of in the center. And you're going to thread it under that first one and hold it tight as it goes down. And then you're going to repeat this pattern of doing under, over, under, over. So this one will be over the back side of this, and then this will be under. So keep working under, over as you turn the handle. And you should land with the white one being an over stitch. So that's going to go under that and then over. And then you can thread it through this. And this is where your tension is. So I like to have the tightest tension, which is going through there and then up through that last one. Now we're ready to start cranking. So the first row is going to be extra tight. And then after that, it should be more smooth sailing. Okay, that was our first row, and now we are going to do around 5 to 10 rows of our scrap yarn. So I'm just going to go up all the way until I hit the white one. Then I'm going to take my yarn out and just drop it in through the middle. So I did 9 rows. Now you're going to take your working yarn. The tail always gets dropped in the middle, and you're just going to thread it through, and again with the same tension, and you are ready to start. And just make sure you reset your row counter because you'll be doing 100 of these rows. So whatever you just did, this will, the scrap yarn will get taken out at the end. And so now you're ready to spin away. I ended up doing 110 rows actually. So I'm about to finish my 110th. I'm gonna cut my yarn and then pull it just to make sure those last stitches get it. Once it's over that white, I'm then gonna take my scrap yarn and do the same thing as before, where I put the end into the hole and kind of make sure that first one gets hooked. And then just keep doing that for 5 to 10 rows. Coming up on my last row here, I'm gonna cut my yarn. And I'm just going to, since this is scrap yarn, I don't really care that it's gonna unravel if I'm careful with it. So I'm just gonna not deal with sewing it off and just wind it. And it'll pop off like that. And there we have our first sleeve. Okay, so now we're ready for our panel. So to make a panel, switch it to the P setting. We're gonna start with our scrap yarn. Same start as the tube. So we're gonna go over under all the way across. So we're at our last one, and this one is not going to catch. So I'm just gonna put it under this little notch right here, right before the white one, and thread it through. And we'll start going back. So there, I reached the other side, and these two are not going to get caught either, but it'll just automatically drop the stitch from those two. Okay, I'm going to cut my scrap yarn now and just let that fall. Up my yarn, thread it as I normally do. Just keep doing that until you have 120 rows. We have our first panel done. And now we just need to repeat that 3 more times. Okay, it's been a couple weeks since I ran out of yarn, but I have my 2 sleeves. And then I have 4 back panels, so we're gonna start sewing them together now. Okay, so before we attach our panels, we're going to make it so that we finish off the edges and get rid of the scrap yarn. So this is what the finished piece looks like. We're basically just going to be placing single crochets into each loop. So basically, the difference in the yarn color kind of helps to see, but you're going to be making single crochets into these loops right here that are right above this last green or the last scrap yarn row that you have. So insert your hook into that very first loop. First one's kind of hard to get into. Then you're going to take your yarn and single crochet into the next one. Okay, so I'm coming up on my last few. The last one is a little loose, so just make sure to pull it. And then you're going to cut your yarn and fasten off. And then you have all your loops secured, so you can just pull out this scrap yarn. And then there you have it. A finished edge. So you're going to do that for all your pieces. And on the other side, since this is the beginning, I usually just cut off the yarn at each of these loops instead of unraveling it because it takes so long. But yeah, so finish off all the edges of your piece and then I will meet you back here to sew them together. Okay, so I have completed all of the edges of my piece just by single crocheting. And now we're going to seam all of them together. So just gonna lay out kind of how it'll look. So you'll have two back panels in the back that are gonna be sewn together right here. And then you're gonna have two front panels and then a sleeve on either side, just like that. So we will be sewing here, here, and then around the sleeves. So this yarn and this color make it kind of hard to see your stitches, but I'm just gonna go as best as I can through the corner stitches, just in and out the whole way down. Okay, I just finished sewing the two back panels together. It's definitely a little noticeable, but that is okay. And so this is the right side of my work and this is the wrong side. And so now we're gonna place right sides together to sew the shoulder seams. Okay, so once you have right sides together, you're gonna pin this into place. Attach the corners together on the outer edge, and then on the inside edge, leave a gap of 5 stitches on either side of that middle seam to create a collar. I just finished sewing the shoulders, and this is what it looks like so far. So I'm about to sew up the edges and the sleeves. So I put the sleeve on the inside. And remember, we're always doing right sides together. So this is the right side of my sleeve, the right side of my front. And then I stretched the sleeve as much as I could and then attached it here and then also here. And now I'm gonna sew starting down here, sew all the way and then across one side and across the other side, and we'll end it in this corner. I just finished sewing. This is what it's looking like. I obviously have a lot of ends to sew in. So if you are just making a regular cardigan, you can end here. But I obviously want to add those buttons. So what I'm gonna do now is crochet around the entire front. Okay, so I'm starting at the center of the 2 panels on the back. And I am just going to insert my yarn and double crochet along the entire border. And as I'm going to be weaving in all my ends. So chain 2 to start and then place a double crochet into the next one. Okay, so just double crochet along the entire length all the way until you get to the collar. Okay, I did the double crochet down here so you can kind of see, and then along the top, and I left it right there. And I'm just gonna map out now where I want my buttons. I think I want my first button like right there. So I'm just gonna pin right there. And then I'm just going to evenly space the rest of the 3 down. Right there. And the last one, just a little bit before the end. Now, you're going to keep double crocheting until you reach this first point. And you're going to double crochet right before it and then chain 3, skip 3, and then place another double crochet. Or it could be, depending on how big your buttons are, my buttons are pretty big, so I'm gonna skip 3 And then if you have smaller buttons, you can skip 1 or 2. Just finished double crocheting. As you can see, I really like the way that it kind of made this bottom edge. So basically I started in the middle back, and then I went around the bottom and then up and then around here and then down there. And this is the side that I did my holes. So as you can see, in between, I actually ended up chaining 4 and then skipping 3. So there's 3, and then the stitch marker is the stitch in the middle, and then I have 1 on either side. So I did that 4 different times, and I just kind of made sure that my button could fit through there, just like that. Now I'm just going to do one final row to kind of solidify these, because the chain isn't that secure. So I'm just going to do 1 row of just single crochet, and I'm just going to do that just along this part, not on the bottom. And I'm just going to single crochet directly into this chain space right here. Okay, I just finished adding that row of single crochet. I also ended up adding double crochet to the sleeves. I realized I had enough yarn, and I also just like the look that the double crochet gives. Yeah, so this is what it's looking like right now. As you can see, it's flipping up because of the knit, and this is like flipping inward, which is going to make it hard for the buttons. So what I'm going to do now before sewing in the buttons for my buttonholes is I'm going to steam it. And then I'm going to sew in my buttons to the side, on this side, and then we will have a completed cardigan. Okay, this is my finished cardigan. So cute, I'm obsessed.